Welcome back, everybody. My name is Evan Hale, and this is Call Glass, the show where I give you my NBA opinions and you just hopefully like them, but probably don't. Um, we're previewing the finals today. What else can I say? This is the finals are tonight. Wanted to get out a little earlier, had some hiccups, but we're here now. We're recording. I'm going to have this out before the first game. And yeah, we're just going to talk about the finals. We talk about maybe a little bit about the previous series, but mostly we're previewing the NBA finals, and that's pretty exciting if you ask me. It's crazy that the season is coming to a close. I didn't do any kind of content stuff before the season started, and this NBA season I have started. This first season where I've really made content, and now we're here, and it's really cool. I've seen not my first full season because I probably started about December, but my first season. This is my first finals that I'm previewing. Other than like with my buddies. So this is really cool, and I appreciate everybody watching. It's not a lot of people right now, but I see this as like, I'm not calling myself an athlete or anything, but how you have athletes, they got to get their reps in, they get their practice in. These are my reps. I get better every time, and I hope you guys think that as well. And we're just gonna talk about the finals, and I'm gonna give you my picks, and we're gonna go from there. But I just want to talk about the teams both as a whole. I think obviously the Thunder are the favorites. We're gonna get that out of the way first. But there's a lot of similarities to these teams. They're both small market teams. It's actually the first time since 2006 where we're having two NBA teams who don't have a championship facing off, which is pretty cool. You have two elite guards and Shea and Tyrese. You got the MVP matching up with I would call this generation's Chris Paul. He's the all-time leading 20-point 10 assist leader with no turnovers. So he took that crown from Chris Paul in 5 seasons. So very much similar to that. Tyrese Halliburton, one of the greatest passers I've ever watched with my own eyes. Shea, one of the best scorers I've ever watched with my own eyes. Both run these offenses amazing. And then the teams around them, you have just super deep, super elite teams. Both have crazy depth. The Pacers have 6 guys this postseason averaging at least 10 points per game. And while the Thunder don't have the same scoring depth, that they have the crazy role players. They have this, elite defense. They have, you got guys like Alex Caruso who are amazing. We'll get into him more later. Cason Wallace. You got your Lou Dort, this defensive specialist. You got Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, AJ Mitchell. Kenrich Williams gets some run. Obviously you got Chet and then J-Dub, Jalen Williams. You also the other Jalen Williams. It's a deep, deep team. And all those guys at least play a little bit, and they all contribute. And, that's so much fun. And then on the other side, you got, just wonderful, crazy depth with the Pistons. They're with Tyrese Halliburton is obviously there. You got, Miles Turner. You got Pascal Siakam is kind of like your top end guys. But, you got Benedict Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Obi Toppin, Ben Shepherd. Jarris Walker, he hasn't played as much. Thomas Bryant's training threes. It's everybody contributing. It's freaking awesome to watch, man. Like, it's all you can say is that, we've talked about it before on the show. They call it the weakest link era. So teams obviously need star power to win, but a team like win or loss is determined by who has the weakest link. And I think these teams both got there. Obviously, there was some injuries with the Cavs, but I still think that even without the injuries, I still think that the Pacers would have won that series. But just having the deepest team and the most consistent team on both sides, I would say the top end guys for the Thunder have had some hiccups here and there. We'll talk about that a little bit, but have been, overall had good averages, but it's been their full roster strength that's kind of carried them to the playoffs. I just think, this is just exciting. It's an exciting finals. You get, like I said, small market teams. It's good for the small markets to be here. Good for, maybe not for ratings, but I don't care about ratings. I'm here to watch, and I think it's going to be a fun series. I think the defenses are going to show out. We're going to talk a little bit about matchups here in a minute when we talk about each team. Because, like I said, the Thunder are the favorites here. We all know the Thunders are the favorites here. And we're more going to talk about the Thunder as a whole and why they're the favorites. And then we're going to talk about the Pacers and what they had to do to overcome the Thunder being the favorites and what they can do to potentially make it a series and maybe even win the thing. I don't think they are, but what they have to do and can do to get there. So I want to highlight the Thunder first, like I said, because they are the favorites. They're led by the MVP, Shea. No, first time an MVP has played in the finals since 2016, Curry. Obviously, that didn't go so well for Curry, but LeBron's on the other side of this bracket. It's Tyrese Haliburton and Pascal Siakam. So, I think they're going to be okay, but we're going to highlight everything here. Shea's average. We're going to talk about like average for the last series. I think that's to be your best litmus test for going forward. Shea averaged 31.4 points per game, 8.2 assists in the 5-game series in the Western Conference Finals versus the Thunder. Versus the Wolves. I can talk, I promise. His splits were a little down. He averaged 45% from the field and just under 32% from three. I think it's because the Wolves defense is really good. I think, the Pistons defense is nowhere near as good as the Wolves, but I do think they have some guys on the roster who can give them trouble. We'll talk about that in a minute. But he's the MVP, man. What else can you say? He won the MVP, because he's elite. I would say that Jokic had one of the best seasons I've ever watched in my life, and he didn't win MVP because Shea's just that good, and the Thunder are just that good. It's all you can say is he's elite. He gets to the free throw line. Yeah, we're gonna talk about ways he might be able to neutralize that here in a minute, but he at the end of the day he's Shea. There's not much you can do. He's gonna average upper 20s, lower 30s for the series. Irregardless of who wins the series, that's going to happen. No matter how well you play him, he's probably going to have a 40-point game in the playoffs, like in the finals. It's going to be fun to watch. Then I want to talk about Jalen Williams, J-Dub. He had a bounce back series. He kind of didn't have a very good one against. He had a good game 1 and game 7 versus the Nuggets, but he had a poor series overall versus Nuggets. But he had a bounce back series against the Wolves. He averaged 22.2 points per game, 6.6 boards, also averaged 2 steals, and he shot 46% from three. I like to highlight 3-point percentage because it is an important part of the league. But I will say these two teams, on average, shoot less threes than the competition in the playoffs. You have, I think it's like 37%, 37.5% of your shots being from three was the average in the postseason. Both these teams are like low to mid 30s for frequency of 3-point shots. I got that off Clean of the Glass. So, they're both middle to bottom for attempting threes when it comes to averaging attempts. But both, it is going to be a deciding factor in the series. So I do like to highlight the percentages from three, especially when you're shooting almost 50% from three. That's crazy. And I think that's going to be a big part for him if he can score at all three levels, especially from 3-point line. Especially because they're going to be sending a lot of guys to Shea. I think you're going to have that Siakam and Jalen Williams matchup, and can Jalen Williams keep Siakam out of the paint? I think the more out of the paint for rebounds by spacing the floor, or is Jalen Williams going to use his strength on Pascal, attack inside, and then have Pascal sag off of him a little bit and abuse the open threes? Time will tell on that one, and we'll see overall. But sorry, Twitter's blowing up because apparently everybody wants to get traded. Quick comment because I got my notifications on for about every major NBA page, but these trade rumors are crazy, and I don't know who's going to end up where. I saw that there's mutual interest between Giannis and the Raptors. That's crazy. The Suns want a center back for KD, and now the Knicks kind of want to trade Cat. So is that going to be a swap? We're going to get a teammate, a college teammate, match up with Cat and Booker on the same roster. It's going to be fun. I think this offseason is going to be crazy, and I'm excited for it. But I'm more excited about the finals right now. So I'm sorry get distracted there. I think it's just fun to see what everybody's talking about, and I got like 5 notifications in a row from Twitter. So I like to make sure nothing too crazy is going on, especially with I'm recording this at 6 p.m. the day of the finals, so I'm hopefully gonna. I think I'm gonna have it up probably by 8. So I'm just making sure everybody's healthy and all that stuff's going on. But yeah, anyways, back to the finals. The 3-pointer is going to be a factor, but I think it's going to be good for the old heads that the 3-pointers aren't going to be the most important thing for the winning this game, winning the series, all that. But yeah, we're gonna see. Chet didn't have the best, talking about that shot. Chet, he didn't have the best offensive series. He didn't have a bad one, but nothing. He offensively he didn't jump off the page. He averaged 18 points, 6 boards. He had a couple of fun dunks, cool blocks, but he didn't stuff the stat sheet like J.W. Shea did, But he's obviously gonna have his impact. He's gonna get you I think it was 1.8 blocks per game. He's gonna be a defensive anchor. He's going to limit people driving, which is going to be big. I wonder how his offense is going to be. I mean, him and Miles Turner are similar in a lot of ways in the way they play. Space on the floor, lanky, 7-footers who can kind of score. I don't like to say. I think I say score all 3 levels a lot, probably too much. It's more they score inside and at 3-point line. Not a lot of mid-range jump shots. Probably more for Miles Turner than for Chet. But I like that matchup. I think that could be cool. Don't think it's going to be a matchup like Halliburton and Shea, but it's going to be. I like these teams parallel each other a little bit, and I think that's kind of fun. And just to highlight another guy for the Thunder, he went from being one of those underrated guys in the playoffs to playing so well that now he's everyone's talking about him, but he deserves the flowers. Alex Caruso, man, he looks like the best defender all time when he's out there. He only plays 22 minutes a night. He still averages almost 2 steals a game, and almost 8 points per game. He shoots the ball at 41% from 3, which is amazing for him. He just locks people up. He may not be getting crazy steals or blocks consistently. He's still averaging a crazy amount for 22 minutes of play. But God, he just locks people up, and that's the one thing you got to think about is Halliburton had a good playoffs. But he hasn't faced defenders like this. I know he had OG and Mikal last series, and those are great defenders. But you're gonna have to go at everybody. You're gonna have Lou Dort, Alex Caruso. You're gonna have 48 minutes of game time. There's gonna be a great guard defender out there, and that's something that he has dealt with these playoffs. So I'm very excited to see how he rises to that. I think he will. We'll talk about him more in a minute. But I just. This Thunder team is so deep and their defense is so good, and it's just Lou Dort's even shooting crazy from 3 right now. I feel like he can't miss from 3. I don't know the exact percentage off here. I have my notes pulled up where I got the stats. I didn't write his down, but I feel like he shoots the ball under the rafters, aiming for their future banner, and it comes down. He shoots the ball so high. He's been training, especially in games that are close. He finds a way to make important big time shots. And that's a big thing. I think that's going to be a deciding factor in the series. But we have to talk about, I can't just be like Thunder, even though I think they're going to win the series in probably 5 or 6 games. I got to talk about how the Pacers can make it to 6 games. Can't push it to 7, maybe win the series. I don't think they can, but we got to talk about that. Defense against Shea is going to be a big factor in that. In game 6, Andrew Nembhard defended Jalen Brunson after, we had Aaron Nesmith guarding him for most of the series. And he went down with the ankle injury. We know that. And so they had to switch Nembhard onto him in that game 6 because of the Nesmith being a little slower. And in 55 matchups, he gave up 9.1 points per game, points per 100 matchups. Which is huge. Per 100 matchups, he gave up 9.1 points per 100 matchups. Sorry. I saw that stat from a Caitlin Cooper on X. Shout out Caitlin Cooper. I've seen a couple other people talk about that. That's huge. That's limiting one of the best scorers, in the playoffs to essentially nothing. He had a great series in that game 6. He did not play well. And a lot of that is because of Nembhard and his defense. I mean, he fought over screens. Defensive intensity was up there. Andrew Nembhard just was amazing. And Aaron Nesmith, he has that intensity too. And he had the ankle injury, which I was reading some stuff today. It looks like he should be good to go. Like, obviously he's going to play, but he's recovering well. He said that these couple of days off really helped him on his recovery. He can just take it easy, get off his ankle, and hopefully it's going to help. But I mean, both of these guys are being your two primary defenders on Shai. They could help slow him down. I think there's a blueprint to guarding Shai. I think that they couldn't do it well enough last series with the Wolves, but there was a couple of games where the Wolves, they did not extend their arms. They did not they had their arms up, not out, like towards Shai. Because when you put your arms out towards Shai, he hooks you when he goes up. And it's technically a foul, but it's created by offensive contact. But it's technically a foul. If you can defend him without extending your arms forward and rather up, and maybe even just not putting your hands up at all, which sounds counterintuitive, he takes bad shots when that happens. He, flails a little bit because he's decided to solve the contact. If you can have him flail and take those shots like the Wolves did for the game that they did win, he takes poor shots when he does that. And if they're not calling fouls, he's going to miss those. I think a big reason why his percentage were down was they called less fouls on the Wolves. Obviously, there were still some, but they called less fouls on the Wolves last series, and his percentages took a dip last series. I think a big reason for that is because he was taking those tough looks, flailing and not trying to make the shot, trying to make the foul. And if you can get him to do that, obviously Shai can beat you just shooting the ball. That's the one thing I think people are frustrated about with Shai, with the foul baiting. Obviously, it's part of his game. I get, obviously it's annoying that he is at the free throw line so much, slows the game down, and we all know that he can score without it, and that's the part that makes people angry. Is that he's such an elite scorer, regardless of the fouls, that if he just rises up normally, he's probably making the shot. But it doesn't get him. It does get him in a rhythm, and it does get him going, and he scores better after getting the free throws up. I'm not gonna say he's a foul baiter or guys have shot more free throws than him. I think it's more that everybody's shooting more free throws right now, and it slows the game down. And the contact being created by the offensive player a lot of the times is what's frustrating. Same thing with James Harden. It was frustrating with James Harden. I think people look back on Harden more nostalgic because it's been a little bit. I think we'll do the same thing with Shai in a few years. But I remember Harden was doing it bad too. The rip through was taken away because guys like Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant abused that. Even Kevin Durant, they ripped the ball through and then go up and it would create contact. And the offensive initiated contact, they made that an offensive foul, and now that's not a thing. Even though this is kind of the modern day rip through. Anyways, if you can limit your contact with Shai, have him take poor shots, you have a chance to win games. Because we have seen him have poor games, and usually when he's having poor games, he gets to the line later in the game, and then he gets into a groove, and that's how he ends up having more better. Like there are some games where he has poor first halves, comes out in the third quarter, gets a couple fouls, gets a couple free throws, gets going, and then at the end of the game he's got 25. So if you can limit the fouls in the first half and then keep that going into the second half, you might have a shot at beating at least winning a game or two just on that alone with the depth of your roster. Sorry, that was a lot about fouls, but it's kind of important, that is part of Shai's game. I'll also say the Pacers, if they can limit the Thunder scoring, are the most consistent offense in the postseason. They're leading in both field goal percentage and 3-point field goal percentage. And they just I talked about it going into the Knicks series. A big reason why I picked them was because they've been the most consistent offense of the postseason. They're leading in scoring, I'm pretty sure, or they're very close to the top in scoring. They are, effective field goal percentage, they are number one. In 3-point field goal percentage, they are number one. They are just a complete scoring roster, and they're from top and bottom. They're great. And you're going to not just need, your role player to score. You need Tyrese Halliburton to be aggressive. They're undefeated in the postseason when he scores 20 points. He averaged 21 points and 10.5 assists versus the Knicks. And he's going to have to make more threes at that, like, he's shot a great percentage. He has to keep shooting a great percentage and shoot more of them. I think you got to space the floor. You got to create. Get space the floor is going to be a big part of this series because the defense is so good for the Thunder. You have to be able to limit what they're doing. You have like defensively, you have to be able to space the floor, create more lanes for you guys to drive, make more opportunity for Pascal Siakam to thrive. He scores a lot from the mid range. If they're respecting Tyrese Moore as a scorer, especially on the outside, it's going to create more space in the mid range for him to hit the ball out. And Tyrese has got to be aggressive. When he's passive, is when the team doesn't look terrible when he's passive, but the team looks their best when he's being aggressive and he takes over. But Siakam's going to have to play like Finals MVP as well. He averaged just under 25 points last series. I think 24.8, 24.9. And he shot 50% from three. He's really been killing it all through levels. Like I said, I say that too much, but he is. He's getting the basket great. He was, just a different animal last series. He shot the three ball at a 50% clip. He excels in the mid range. He's so great. Pascal Siakam has been so great to watch. He's been so much fun to watch. You're going to have to keep that going. He's showing his experience from the Raptors run, from his playoff experience. He's helping you can tell he's being a leader in this locker room, and he's going to have to keep doing that. You're also going to have the role players show up, man. Like, they're going to have to keep showing up. Benedict Mathurin's going to have to play keep playing at a great level. Andrew Nembhard, he's had some crazy runs. Aaron Nesmith as well. These are all guys, Miles Turner. These are all guys who are averaging double-digit points in the postseason. These are guys who have to turn up. They're going to have to keep turning up, and they're going to have to outplay the defense of the Thunder. I think they can outscore the Thunder in a scoring capacity if they can get past the defense. If they can limit how good the defense is, and you're on even playing field for defensive purposes, they're going to win. They're going to win at least a couple games. They're not going to. They're not going to do that. Let me just reel that back a little bit. So the difference between the Thunder's defense and the Pacers' offense in terms of skill level, where the Thunder's defense being better than the Pacers' offense, is greater than the difference between the Pacers' defense and the Thunder's offense. So that's going to be a big thing. Can they space that gap? Can they keep their offense as consistent as it has been, take another step up and compete with that Thunder's defense and, produce winning plays and score a lot of baskets, man. You got to score a lot of buckets against the Thunder if you're going to beat them. That's going to be the tell. I think, I think Siakam and Halliburton are going to show up. Even with the defense, I think Halliburton is still going to find a way to produce against, Lou Dort, against, Alex Caruso, against, Case and Wallace. You have to get some switches. And I think that he's going to be able to produce. I think Pascal Siakam, even against, is probably going to line up with Jalen Williams. I think he's going to be able to produce at least, a certain amount of points per game, like a decent amount of points per game. Halliburton's going to have to create for others. He's leading the postseason assists per game at 9.8. That's what he's got to create. He's got to create. Your bench has to show up. TJ McConnell's got to ball out. Obi Toppin's going to have a game or two. Thomas Bryant's got to make 7 threes. So he did. Obviously, that's exaggeration, but he made a lot of threes in that game 6 to close it out. I've talked about Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard. They got to have big 3-point shooting games. They got to score a lot. Mathurin's got to show up. There's just a lot of guys have to show up. But it's fun because you're two young teams. TJ McConnell's I think he's the oldest guy on the roster. Yeah, he's 32, and Pascal Siakam's 30. And then Miles Turner's 28, and then you got Halliburton 24, Nesmith 25, Nembhard 25, Mathurin 22, Toppin 26, Shepherd 23, Jarris Walker's 21, Thomas Bryant's 27, and then you got James Johnson. Obviously, he doesn't play very much at all, but he's 37, so you kind of pulls your average age up, and then you got Furphy and Bradley probably pulling the age down a little bit there with 27, 20 years old respectively. But your main core guys average age 25. That's the Thunder are the youngest team to ever do this. They make the finals. It's cool. We got two young small market teams with fun point guards. it's exciting. This is exciting. I think we should all appreciate how exciting this is, and just be excited. We're gonna get at least 4 more games of basketball this season. Hopefully 7 more games. Don't think that's gonna happen, but God, I hope so. That'd be awesome. Can you imagine Game 7 in Oklahoma City? Everybody wearing the shirts. Close game. That'd be electric. And we haven't had a Game 7 in the finals in a long time. I think it wasn't it. It was 2016. I'm pretty sure. Because I think everybody else has been like 6. Okay, finals to go to. Oh my God. I'm just looking at that real fast to go to Game 7. It was 2016 cast, which also was last time the MVP played in the final. So, it'd be cool. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm picking the Thunder in 6, but if they won in 5, I wouldn't be surprised. I think that the Pacers are too good to not win a game. It's hard to be perfect. I just want to see more basketball, man. I'm excited to see these matchups. I'm a Hornets fan. We all know this. There's a lot of people in the Hornets community who don't like Tyrese Haliburton because he was in the same draft class as LaMelo Ball, and they're compared all the time because of it. I don't care, man. Haliburton is so good. He's so much fun to watch play. I love watching him play. He's so good. Nothing but love. I'm personally rooting for the Pacers. I want to see Haliburton win. I like Pascal Siakam. I liked him in 2019. That finals run was awesome. He seems like a really good dude. But nothing but respect for the Thunder. They are the best team in the league. This is a dynasty. They're going to win multiple, and I think that it starts today. They're going to win tonight. Actually, I think the Pacers might steal Game 1. I think everyone's going to lose their mind and be like, "Oh my God, the Pacers are so good," and then it's going to fall apart after that. But only time will tell. Like I said, it is 6:16 p.m. Eastern time. Game tips off in 2 hours 15 minutes. I'm gonna stop recording this right now. I'm gonna edit it and I'm gonna have it up by 8. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I have to do a couple edits here and there in the videos because I fumble at how I'm supposed to say things sometimes. But I hope you guys see that the content is improving in quality every time I do this. I've added, the overlays and got some lighting now. It's background's not perfect. Like I said, I live in a camper. I'm gonna move in a house this summer. I'm gonna have a whole room for myself. PC. I'm gonna decorate the walls. I got signed jerseys, signed memorabilia. I'm gonna put up. It's gonna be sick. Just give me some time to do that. And I promise you, if you stick around and watch this stuff, I will not disappoint you. I'm going to get better every time. And I want to be good. I want to be great. We'll try to get the Summer League this summer. It's not going to happen. It's really expensive, and I missed a week of work with being in the hospital. So not going to happen this year. Going to make it next year. I'm going to be at the Draft Combine, and I'm going to be at the Summer League next year. And we're going to lock in, and we're going to be there, and it's going to be awesome. Like I said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support. Thinking about me as an investment. You're investing in me, and I'm going to promise you this. You're going to hold this, and you're going to see it to the moon, and we're going to get there together. And if you're watching this, I appreciate you so much. Just enjoy basketball, and that's all I got. I'll see y'all.